Hey everybody, Dr. Perkins here. I am a board certified OBGYN who's so super passionate about helping us as people live our best lives. And so right here on our channel, we do just that. Today's topic is, what are 3 signs of an ectopic pregnancy? You should watch this video today because we're talking about the signs and symptoms of ectopic pregnancies, why ectopic pregnancies happen, who is most at risk for developing ectopic pregnancies, and can you prevent ectopic pregnancies in the future? So let's start the conversation today by talking about what a normal pregnancy usually looks like. In this model here, I'll walk you through important things to know about pregnancies. And so this is the vagina here. This is the uterus. You have 2 fallopian tubes and 2 ovaries. Pregnancies occur by an egg being released from the ovary into the fallopian tube. The egg then will meet with a sperm in the fallopian tube. The 2 will combine together, travel along the fallopian tubes, and the pregnancy or embryo will develop right here in the center of the uterus. This is considered to be completely normal, and the pregnancy will continue to live in this space for 9 months and eventually will pass through the vagina into the world as you have a vaginal birth or a C-section where we will go inside of the uterus to remove the baby on your behalf. Now, an ectopic pregnancy is any pregnancy that develops outside of the uterus. This can actually happen in many different places. I can tell you that I've found and removed pregnancies by the bladder, nowhere close in this vicinity, and this pregnancy can develop for pretty much many weeks and many months without causing a lot of problems. But this is not normal. In general, a majority of ectopic pregnancies will happen right here in the fallopian tube where egg and sperm meets together. The reason this happens is that once egg and sperm comes together, there are very tiny hair cells called cilia that are located in the entire fallopian tube. And we're talking about millions of hairs or cilia, and essentially they wave and move together in sequence to help move things along the fallopian tube. And so when egg and sperm meets together, imagine being in a crowded area and you're moving, or you're like holding someone above and moving them throughout the crowd. The same thing happens here where the cilia moves in concert, holding this conceptus, which is the egg and sperm together, and moves them along the fallopian tube until the combination is implanted inside of the uterus. If the cilia are not moving and not working as they should, the pregnancy remains in this space, continues to develop, and may cause major problems, major risks to your life if it continues right here in this space. And the reason is, as you can see on this model, the fallopian tubes are very small. And I'm actually going to switch to a different model so that you can get a better, larger view of what this can look like. This is Ivy. She's my friend. She's a larger version of exactly what I showed you on that previous model. Here's the uterus. This is where we want egg and sperm to develop together and the developing baby. This is the fallopian tube, which is really small compared to the entire size of the uterus. And this fallopian tube does not have what it takes for a growing pregnancy or baby. There's not enough muscle, there's not enough blood vessels, there's not enough space here for a pregnancy to develop. And so if the pregnancy remains in this space, this is called an ectopic, but you're at risk of having a rupture or a breakage in your fallopian tube. And this can be life-threatening. Pregnancies can also occur right here in the ovaries. That's probably the next most likely area where they can develop, but this is not the right place for their pregnancy to be for a lot of reasons. Not enough blood vessels and blood flow, but there's no supporting tissue as well, as the uterus would house a pregnancy quite well. The muscles and tissues that are necessary for that pregnancy are not located here in the ovaries. And so here, just as the fallopian tubes, pregnancies can be life-threatening. Pregnancies can also occur in the cervix. The cervix is the lower portion of the uterus here. And again, this is not the optimal space for pregnancies to develop. In general, the purpose of the cervix in pregnancy is really to stay closed and long and secure the pregnancy inside of the uterus. If the pregnancy is right here in the cervix, that is dangerous, and there's no support to help the growing pregnancy stay inside, as the support is the cervix itself, and that is now stretching and growing with the pregnancy. All of these are dangerous to your life and important for you to know if you're having an ectopic pregnancy. Now, in general, ectopic pregnancies affect 1 to 2% of all pregnancies. But if you are having an ectopic pregnancy, knowing the signs and symptoms and intervening earlier than later is always best, so that you can save your organs, but more so to save your life. So now that you understand what an ectopic pregnancy is, you may be wondering, well, am I at risk, or why do these happen? In general, if those small, tiny cilia hairs that are in your fallopian tubes are damaged in any way, you may be at risk of getting an ectopic pregnancy. These hairs can be damaged by several different things, smoking being one of them. And so if you are a smoker or you have a long history of smoking, the likelihood of these hairs not functioning well is quite high. Secondly, if you've had any STDs in the past, the greatest culprits that I've seen in my practice and also in research are gonorrhea, chlamydia, and other STDs that affect the pelvic organs. With STDs, even after cure, even after having a small exposure to any of these infections and bacteria, what happens is that you create scarring or adhesions, and this prevents the cilia from functioning the way they should. So essentially, instead of them being flexible and movable, these cilia becomes very firm and tough and not movable. Thirdly, if you've had previous surgeries to your pelvis, whether that be removing a cyst, having a C-section previously, or even having an appendectomy, any surgery to your pelvic region may also cause scarring to build up on the inside, which can prevent your tubes, your fallopian tubes, from functioning well and preventing pregnancies from moving along the tubes like they should in early pregnancy. While there are other underlying conditions that can lead to having an ectopic pregnancy, those are the most common that we tend to see in ectopic pregnancies. So what are common signs of an ectopic pregnancy? So 3 that I really want you to know today. The first is that you may have pain in your pelvic region that may be on either your right side or the left side. And that is because, let's bring Ivy back into the picture here. You have 2 ovaries and 2 fallopian tubes, one set on the right side and one on the left side. An ectopic pregnancy will only be on one side or the other because you're not ovulating on the same side each month. You're ovulating either on your right side or your left side, and they take turns from month to month. The side that the ectopic pregnancy, again most commonly would be in your fallopian tube, the side that it develops on will be the sign that you tend to have pain. And so if you're having pain and you've had a positive home pregnancy test and you are unsure of where that pregnancy is, that means you have not had an ultrasound that took a look to make sure that it's inside of the uterus, and you start to have pain on either side, it is very important that you reach your doctors immediately so that they can take a look by ultrasound to see exactly where your pregnancy is developing. Secondly, you may have vaginal bleeding. Now, in early pregnancy, it's very common that you may have an implantation bleed, which is the pregnancy establishing itself inside of the uterus and may have a little bit of bleeding. But in ectopic pregnancies, that bleeding is often consistent, not necessarily as heavy as a period, but constant from day to day, in addition to having pain in the abdominal region. And so if you're having this continuous bleed and you're having pain, it is more important that you see your doctors right away. And if you cannot be seen immediately, I would recommend going to the emergency department so that you can have immediate care and localize exactly where that pregnancy is developing. Now, you may not see a heartbeat because it may be early in pregnancy, 5 weeks pregnant, 6 weeks pregnant, but it's important to see where that pregnancy is forming, even if there's no heartbeat as yet. The third sign that I'd like to talk about today is that you may have right-sided shoulder pain. This is because if you have a pregnancy developing where it's not normal and it ruptures, meaning that it breaks and it causes bleeding inside of your belly, that bleeding can build up to the point where you could even have like a liter of blood inside of your belly from an ectopic pregnancy that's bleeding. Whenever you move and walk and breathe and do simple things in life when you have an ectopic pregnancy that is ruptured, any bleeding inside of your abdomen may affect how your liver and your diaphragm feels, and that causes referred pain to your shoulder. Referred means that the changes that are happening are inside of your abdominal region. However, when they affect your diaphragm, it causes pain in your right shoulder. No, you're not having bleeding here, but this is a reflection of the bleeding that's happening internally. So if you're having this issue, it is another reason why you should contact your doctors right away, because ectopic pregnancies can cause you to hemorrhage and potentially lose your life. If an ectopic pregnancy is developing, you can actually find out that this is happening pretty soon after pregnancy if you're having the symptoms that we just discussed. And so even if you're 5 or 6 weeks pregnant, meaning that you've missed your cycle in the last 1 to 2 weeks, this may be present, as well as up to a month or a month and a half after that first missed cycle. You may also want to know, well, can you prevent an ectopic pregnancy? Well, the short answer is no. And that's because while a pregnancy occurs in that fallopian tube, you can't control the movement of that fallopian tube throughout your system. However, what you can control is if you do have a history of an infection like an STD, the earlier that you get treated, the less damage that may be in your system internally. That's very important for your future risk of having an ectopic pregnancy. I hope this has all been helpful to you today. I have a free gift that I'd like to offer you. At the link below, I would like to offer you a free copy of my ebook, Hormones Don't Lie. With this ebook, we dive into your hormones, the changes that happen in the female reproductive system, and ways that you can go about creating balance internally. I'm Dr. Perkins, a board-certified OBGYN, and I'm so happy that you've joined us on my channel, learning about such important topics. Please like and share with someone that you think may benefit from knowing this information, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for being here. Take care.